Hi everybody, good morning. So myself Siddharth. So we have already communicated earlier. So today's agenda will be discussing about what is the agenda of this course, like during the 60 hours, what we'll be learning, and along with that, along with the course content, I'll also explain like what's the project also we'll be discussing here. And also we'll just have a quick introduction of each other, so not in details, like basically what's the current skill set each and every person is working in, and so that we'll align ourselves, like we shouldn't be in the mindset like all people are from SQL background or ETL background or programming background. So I'm pretty sure like we are a mixed profile here. So post that we'll be discussing, we'll starting with the basics of Spark, as you have discussed from the beginning only. So from the day one only, it's hands-on. So today it's the day zero. So today we'll not do any hands-on. So rather I'll just quickly walk you through what is the basics of big data. So some people who are not aware of what is big data technologies or what is distributed computation, storage, Apache Spark. So I'll just quickly start with that, and post that from tomorrow onwards, we'll start writing the program itself. Okay, so a quick background of myself. I am having 9+ years of experience into the same domain only. I started as a Java developer for the first 2 years of my career. Then I moved into data engineering using Apache Hadoop. Okay, so Hadoop, like I almost worked for 3 to 4 years, and post that I'm completely into Apache Spark. Okay, so I am hands-on with all these three languages, like Java, Scala, and Python. But I extensively use Spark with Scala and Python. So there are equal opportunities that are around both, like Spark with Scala as well as Spark with Python. So you'll find equal opportunities. Earlier, like the proportion was like in Indian markets like Bangalore, Pune, Mumbai, and all. A lot of opportunities were Spark with Scala, and in US and abroad, mostly Spark with Python. But nowadays in Indian market also there are a lot of opportunities around Spark with Python. Okay, so we'll discuss that, like which language to be preferred, where, which type of projects should use, which type of languages. That also we'll discuss. And yeah, so yeah, I'm having 9 years of experience into like both data engineering as well as programming, software engineering, all. So and I have productionalized more than 15-20 projects now, since I work for like startups or mid-sized companies where mostly it's an individual contributor role. Once a project or SOW came in, so start disciplining it and implementing it end to end, and sometimes like directly start scoping. Like if you have heard about like senior folks like having 10+ years of experience, they involve in scoping, because clients have some requirement and you have to help them properly scope it out, what project they want to execute, and then basically once the scoping exercise is completed, then you form a SOW, statement of work, and start executing the project. So the bottom line is basically, so I have fair understanding of like both the implementation part as well as scoping part. So it will be a completely interactive session. So you can feel free to interrupt me, and I'll also interrupt you. And it's kind of like completely interactive session. Okay, so that's pretty much about myself. And cloud technologies wise, I extensively use AWS Cloud and recently started using Azure also. So we'll discuss that in more details. But this course is about Spark with Python, and or PySpark we call it as, and the implementation part using AWS Cloud. Okay, so anybody having any queries, you can feel free to interrupt me. You can unmute yourself and you can put your point here. As I mentioned, it's a completely interactive session. So I'll take a pause here and I will try to understand each and every person's background, and then we'll start with the course content part, right? So one second. So Manoj, can you quickly walk me through like what's your current skill set you are working in? How many years of experience?
Yeah, my name is Manusij, and I have 4+ years of work ex in technologies like master data management and Oracle. So currently, I'm working in a product-based company where they have their own databases. So I'm handling that.
Okay. And how many years of experience?
I have 4+ years of work ex.
Okay, 4+. Okay. Okay, thanks. Brahmini?
Hi, Siddharth. I'm ETL developer. I'm working with the Pentaho and Talent. And AWS, we used to run those Talent jobs in AWS.
Pen-
ECS instance.
Okay, Pentaho, Talent. These are ETL tools. And
AWS, I know to run the jobs, that's all. To create tasks and assign clusters.
okay, fair enough. Like all these tools you're using over AWS Cloud.
Yes,
Okay. And how many years of experience you have now?
7 years of experience.
7 years. Any experience in programming as well? Any basics?
Basics, I know Java.
Okay, Java basics. Okay, Manosis, you have like any programming background?
Yeah, I know some basic Python.
Okay, Python basics. Okay. Okay, fair enough. Brian?
Hello, yeah. So I just recently graduated with a robotics engineering degree, master's, and I I know modern C++ and Python programming, and I even have worked on deep learning and machine learning. But like I'm looking out for jobs in that field, so I thought of I should even know about like big data because it is used a lot in that field. So that's the reason I'm taking this course.
Okay, fair enough. So basically, you already into machine learning and robotics, and nowadays every other like data analytics, machine learning projects have a lot of
Yeah,
data. So big
yeah,
data is a crucial part in every section. Okay, fair
yep,
enough.
yeah.
Yeah. So what's your expectation from this course? You will first get into big data, and then you will be getting into into your DDS part, or how it is?
Yeah, so I'm targeting like computer vision roles. So even in that, this requirement comes sometimes. So I'm targeting computer vision and machine learning roles.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah,
Okay. Fair enough. So you did your MS there in US itself.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Uh, yeah, I saw one person with admin PC name. Oh, who is this actually?
I think this is Kishore.
Kishore, you joined two systems, right? Kishore and admin PC, right?
Oh, no. I have joined from Kishore then only.
Okay.
That person.
Yeah, fine. Kishore, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I am ETL developer having 9+ year of experience, and I am working in Informatica and SQL, Oracle.
Okay, Informatica and SQL, Oracle.
And
Okay.
a little bit cloud knowledge I have, but I don't have any programming experience.
Okay. No programming in the college time. Any basics of?
Yeah, basic. Yeah, those that basics I know. Yeah, I am from computer science background, but no hands-on or nothing. Little bit basics I know.
Okay. And how many years of experience?
9 years.
Okay, 9 years. Okay, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, still I didn't get admin PCs use ID. Can you please tell me?
You can say as a like shrinking technology, and most of the people are moving towards modernization and AWS cloud. So that is the main factor going for this course.
Okay, fair enough. So you already having 11+ years of experience into kind of legacy technologies, COBOL, RPG, and all, and you want to basically move to big data technologies to basically upskill yourself.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, Hari, you want to go next?
Yeah, hi. Hi, myself Hari, and I'm a civil admin, and I have 6+ years of experience.
Okay, CBLDB, right?
Yeah.
How many years of experience you do? 6+.
6+ years.
Okay, and what's your expectation from this program?
I just wanted to have a knowledge on database and Hadoop development and everything. That includes the Spark Scala, Hive, and a little bit knowledge on Kafka.
Okay. Like any programming experience? Any basics?
Basic. I know basic things like I have been into many things like mainframes, COBOL, SQL.
Okay.
Everything is basic.
Okay, everything is
In my
basic.
college days, I have learned it.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Ritesh, you want to next? Yes?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Siddharth. Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Ritesh. I have overall 5+ years of experience and been working in different dimensions. I can say that as a ETL development using Pentaho data integration, as well as I have some experience in database migration part. Previously, I was working on that PL SQL development also. So I have means few big data related technology. I can say that Scoop, Hive, Impala, Kudu kind of things. And for cloud perspective, we are using AWS. And I do not have any programming experience in real time. Yeah, obviously, I have some basic knowledge in the based on the college time. This is
Okay.
all about me.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so you're already into ETL. Okay, most of the people are from ETL only, and which is obvious because data is basically increasing the volume-wise, speed-wise a lot. That's why these traditional tools are not helping for processing hundreds of TBs and petabyte scale data and varieties of data also. So that's why we are moving into means the same ETL using big data technologies. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, Sandeep, you want to go next?
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Sandeep here. I have around 9+ years of experience in IT, and I have worked with various ETL tools like Informatica and Pentaho, and I have a basic knowledge and talent. And also the databases like Oracle and use basic SQL. Apart from that, I have like very basic knowledge and program that is actually studied very well in my college days. And yeah, I just joined this board to upgrade my skill set as per the market, the current trend and latest technologies. That's it.
Fair enough. Yeah, same like me. 9 years of experience, 9+ years of experience. You want to upskill yourself, but you are currently into ETL part. That's the good thing about it. And programming wise basics. Okay, fair enough. Okay. I think we have another Sandeep also, right? You are Sandeep Kumar, right? Sandeep Kumar. Okay. Okay. The other Sandeep actually, Sandeep N, right? Can you please go next?
This is
Sorry?
Yeah, Sandeep Kumar, Siddharth.
Okay. Okay. I think other Sandeep, can you just quickly walk me through your profile?
I have six years of experience in mainframe technologies. Currently working on Java Spring Boot applications since the migration has happened. So I want to learn big data. So I have joined this course.
Okay.
From this course, I just want to know the big data and Python and database. I'm not looking for any jobs right now. But okay.
Okay, so mainframe and Java Spring Boot, RESTful services, and all these things you have used, right?
Yeah.
And you have 7+ years of experience.
6 years, yeah.
Okay, 6 years. And basically, you want to, what's the purpose like of this training?
Just to feature ready with the technology, that's it.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, Suresh, you want to go next?
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Suresh. I have overall 6+ years of experience. Out of 6, 2 years on Android and other 4+ years on ETL technologies like Pentaho and Talend. I have good knowledge on Core Java and Scala. And coming to databases, I am working with MySQL and Oracle.
Okay, MySQL and Oracle. Have you ever worked on this, what do you call it? Sorry, CDC part, change data capture from MySQL and all?
Yeah, yes.
Using the log mechanism, by reading the server bin logs and how
No,
to.
no, completely SQL knowledge.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, got it. Okay, fair enough. And okay, Vinayak?
Good morning. I'm Vinayak. I have total 4+ years of experience, and currently I'm into automation testing. And skills wise, I have familiarity with Python, AWS, and SQL. And the reason for joining this course is I want to switch my career to the big data engineering.
Okay, so automation testing means you must be using Core Java also, Selenium and all.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Got it. Okay, Biharika. Viharika, you want to go next?
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, this is Viharika, and I've did my graduation in Masters in Computer Science, and I have 3+ years of experience, and 1 year I worked in manual testing, and my last project was in 2 years I worked in SAP ABAP. Currently, I'm thinking to change my subject, my stream, so I'm interested to explore data engineering. So I'm completely new to data engineering.
Okay, and you must be using some programming language for SAP ABAP, right?
Yes, we use Java.
Okay.
Java and SQL.
Java and C.
SQL.
Okay, Java and SQL. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair enough. 3+ years of experience. So
Yeah.
you are based out of US, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Got the idea. Okay, did I miss anybody? No, right? Brian, we spoke about you, right? Oh, yeah. Okay, wait, there's Sandeep Kumar. Okay, fair enough. And I didn't miss anybody, right? Just feel free to interrupt me. Okay, fair enough. So we just understood each other. Like most of the people are from ETL, and it's a mixed background. So people with MDM, SQL background. So just trust me, like it's not about only just big data. Like when you have a group with many people having 7, 8 years, 9 years experience. So we also, while discussing, also will learn a lot of things from each other. So that's a good thing about it. And it's a completely one-on-one session. So you don't have to shy out, because the whole objective is learn big data as soon as possible, and you can start going for interviews. Okay, so just a quick, what do you call, past experience. Completed like almost 420 students now, participants now, and 92 people have cleared interview. Means people who are reporting me like, yeah, I just cleared interview. So I'm counting on them. But some people who are not in touch with me, like I have completed, there are many, like more than 40, 50 participants are from US and other from overseas. So I'm not in touch with them. But people who I'm counting here in India and India, and some people from Canada and US. So I'm counting total 92 people have already cleared interview. So it's a completely like whatever I'm currently working in the projects, I try to replicate the course exactly same way. Means right after you get a project description from the client and how to start brainstorming on the project part, and what are the different aspects, like how to decide the tech stacks or technologies to be used, and then what's the volume, just identify what's the volume. Is it the right candidate to be solved using big data technologies, or it can be solved using SQL, or it can be done with some basic Python, pandas, data frame programming. So end-to-end thing, like to see the or to attack the problem from multiple directions to get the right solution. So that is thing. And also like setting up the entire infrastructure. So you identified it's a big data use case, then start setting up the infrastructure like in the cloud. I mostly worked on cloud, not on-prem, like Hortonworks and Cloudera. So I'll walk you through the entire details. Like I'll help you to set up the AWS account also, and how to execute your job there, automate it. And not just the productionization part, and in the project part also, you'll be seeing a lot of scenarios where the data is basically the distribution of the data in such a way that the job is failing. So data skewness problem. Some people who are from ETL background, you might be able to relate it, but don't worry, I'll just explain what is data skewness and all. So how to optimize your pipeline, how to monitor the job. Suppose big data jobs are lengthy jobs. They run for like 6 hours, 7 hours, 10 hours like that in the production. So how to monitor it, how to monitor the job's progress, how to basically monitor, are you fully utilizing the cluster resources, or the cluster is not utilized up to the maximum extent. How to monitor that. Okay, so tuning, monitoring, and all these aspects. And a couple of advanced concepts like which are very new, like less than 1 year old technologies, like if you have heard about Databricks Delta table. So in Pentaho, and I saw some people are using Pentaho, Talent, and also if you are using big database pipeline, so there is no option to create a ACID compliant data lake. It's all OLAP, online analytical processing. Means mostly you are creating warehouses or data marts on top of which some visualization or some reports or the dashboards are getting created. But now Databricks last year in the month of April, they just released one special type of storage technology called Delta Lake that gives us an option to basically apply the ACID properties. ACID, if you have heard about RDMS, atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability. Means you can do a record level insert, update, delete. Okay, and data lake versioning. So you just by mistake you just screwed up the data lake and you want to revoke it to the previous or some last second or last third version of the data lake. You should be able to seamlessly roll back to a particular version. So all these concepts came in. So people started using it like anything. It's a very powerful tool. Kind of you are getting kind of 60-70% of the OLTP transactional database properties here in the data lake, in the traditional data lake. So it's a huge thing. So we'll be discussing that. And AWS Glue is also, if some people are planning to work in startups and all, so they have a very less budget and they have a lot of data engineering pipelines to be created. So instead of creating it from the scratch, you can just use any Spark as a service. So as you know, nowadays this entire technology is moving towards SaaS, like software as a service, or like cloud version of the same. If you have just noticed, this Microsoft products, Adobe is also trying to move their Photoshop and all these things to cloud. Similarly, without any exception, Spark is also one of the best distributed computation framework these days industries are using. So there are a couple of initiatives on Spark as a service. If you have heard about Databricks company itself, the founder of or the inventor of the Spark framework, Matti Jaharia, who just published this paper as his PhD in MIT US. Later, he just made it open sourced with Apache. So he has his own company. This is Databricks, who does a lot of cool stuff in the big data area. So Databricks also provides a Spark as a service. Similarly, AWS is also providing Spark as a service called AWS Glue. We'll also learn how to create pipelines using AWS Glue as well as Databricks. So a couple of advanced topics, so that I generally suggest everybody to start applying for interviews by at least showing 3 years of experience in the resume. So and people having 9 years, 10 years experience, you can also show like 4 years, 5 years. This is your what you call experience level. So pretty much like everybody can start applying for senior data engineering role. So that's how this course has been designed, almost 100 plus programs. And I'll be giving at least 20-30 assignments. A lot of hands-on things are there. Okay, with that, let me quickly walk you through. Like I'm pretty sure like you must have had a chance to go through the course content in my website. So everything, whatever mentioned, we'll be discussing here. So the title is Big Data using Apache Spark with Python, that is PySpark, and AWS Cloud. In AWS generally is the most what you call is the most widely used cloud framework these days. But recently, if you have heard Azure and Google Cloud, they are also picking up in the market. But yeah, like there are a lot of opportunities in AWS Cloud. We'll be also learning that. And as I discussed, like this course has been broken into 4 parts. Like first, as I mentioned, like first 4 sessions you can join for free as demo sessions to just assess this program. The objective is means I don't believe in one demo session, because obviously a person will try his level best to convince you in one session, but that shouldn't be the case, because as you know, people from different background, people from manual testing background, people till some people are having big data experience also. So there is a wide spectrum of experience level here. So everybody should be convinced, like, because anyway you'll be more than money, like you'll be putting effort like 60 hours a week. It's not a small effort, so a lot of effort you'll be putting. So you should be convinced, like, is the right course for you, or is the right skill set you are looking for. So in one session people will say, yeah, big data not require any programming, basics of SQL required, but I'm not with that. I'll share the fact, like, in order to crack a interview with 100% hike, many people from my previous batches who have cleared interviews with 100% hike, 120% of hike, maximum 200% of hike. So like the salary, the compensation part for big data or data engineering role is almost 2x, 3x more than the normal software engineering and ETL role. If you have just researched by your own, you will see like every person like who is into big data, like Apache Spark and cloud technology, their salary is for sure 2x more than the software engineering. For example, if a person is having 6 years of experience here like in software engineering, your salary is 12 lakhs, 15 lakhs up to. But as a big data developer, your salary, you can basically expect 30 plus package also. 8 years, 9 years of experience. I've seen one of my closest friends is working with 50 lakhs package with 9 years of experience. And mine is also similar. So there are a lot of opportunities out there, and it's a very dynamic field. Okay, so since the compensation is more, so obviously don't feel like it will be easy and salary and compensation is more, then everybody will jump into big data. But it's not that straightforward. You have to put effort. I will not say easy or tough, because that's a relative term. Easy and hard means I have used it for 7-8 years now, 9 years now. So for me it's easy. But you have not yet started it using, so somebody will ask you to write a Spark program. It's hard for you, isn't it? So that's why I'll not compare it with easy and hard. So I would say rather it's a lot of value addition stuff. Software engineering, you are creating website or creating backend services or creating batch applications. But for we like data engineers, what we do, we basically bring all this data for industry of a company to a centralized platform. So a lot of data analytics and machine learning models can be built, and which basically gives a lot of insights about the business. So the business people can take a lot of like better decisions to boost the revenue and increase the customer base. So you are directly participating in increasing the revenue of the customer. So it's of huge importance, isn't it? So if you have seen like different dashboards, I'll show you like different BI dashboards, business intelligence dashboards, which businesses use to monitor or track their business. So we are the data engineering people, help them preparing that data. Okay, so it's a very important and very crucial role. So that's why like a lot of opportunities are around. Every other small to mid-sized to big companies, they are doing data engineering activities, BI activities, data science activities. So it's a common across industries. Earlier it was only limited to banking and this what you call CPG, consumer packaged goods. But nowadays every other companies, every successful Indian startup, they're extensively using data to take business decisions. And if you're following actively the basically technical forums, you might have seen last year some company has just published a forum like article like Swiggy is having one of the best Indian Swiggy is one of the best Indian company who is having the best data science team in India. They have a 20 people team, data science team, and they are doing the best job. So they just did some evaluation basis the strategies and all. So every other small to mid-sized big company, they are using data extensively. So it's everywhere, not just banking. It's in telecom, it's in insurance, it's in food chain companies, it's everywhere. Okay, so that's why it's of a huge importance. And one more thing is it's very much closely associated with the data science and artificial intelligence. Okay, so that's why like you are again getting exposure towards the like basically intelligent analysis happening in businesses. So that's why it's a very important role. So that's why you have to also learn the steps carefully, because here like every mistake from the data engineering side, it will impact the business badly. Okay, for example, you are doing some analysis, some business just ask us to find out the month-on-month total revenue, month-on-month total active customers, month-on-month total new customer acquired, all these matrices, and you just have to extract those matrices from the data and share it with them. So it should be with absolute accuracy. Basis that they will be taking business decisions. Okay, so if you just if you just do wrong analysis, that means the entire business decisions will also be wrong. Okay, that's why it's a great responsibility role. So that's why only, so you'll see the people are also making 2x 3x more salary. Okay, and I have experience in both software engineering as well as data engineering. So coding part wise, you don't have to think of like now going back to the college time, learn data structure algorithm, all these complex algorithms like graph tree, the star of unknown, this traveling salesman problem. No, you don't have to go into that depth level. So in data engineering, so the example what I just gave you, so this kind of examples you have to do. You have to do the data transformations. You have to find out some aggregations. So those level of means data related means algorithms you have to learn. Okay, that we will be using extensively, but it's not pure data in data structure and algorithm. Up to linked list, if you know, so we are in a good position. If you don't know, also it's fine. Some companies, product-based companies, they do ask basics of linked list, how to reverse a linked list, sort a linked list, those kind of programs. Otherwise you will find like more than 70-80% of companies, they will be mostly asking into SQL and big data stuff like Apache Spark and all. Okay, so basis that I have designed this course like completely when you are executing the programs, you will be getting a sense as if you are working in a real-time project. All these data sets I'll be sharing with you, these are all real-time data. I just did some anonymization. Like suppose it's a credit card data, I just changed the credit card to XYZ ABC kind of, and it's a basically transaction data, it's a customer's data, it's a user's activity data. So all these data are basically real-time data only. So I just prepared. So you'll get a sense of like real-time projects, not like this random data sets like Netflix data, this YouTube data, this GitHub users data. So those are basically theoretical, but here like everything is all these data sets I'll be sharing with you are your proper real-time data. Okay, so okay, just feel free to interrupt me. Okay, I'll just keep on speaking. So just feel free to interrupt me if you have any queries, you want to add something. Okay, so as I mentioned, like first few sessions are demo sessions, so that I'll be covering first today. I'll just explain the entire course content. In the next 3 sessions, I'll be helping you through writing some basic ETL code using Spark. Okay, so that you will get a sense like how we are programming. So because I'll be also expecting by end of 3rd session, everybody should be able to write the program, basic ETLs. So if you're able to do that, then you can make sure like, yeah, you will be able to cope up with this course. You will be able to write the programs and you'll be able to grasp the concepts. Okay, then you can make a call like whether you want to continue or not. Okay, but mostly like you should be able to crack interview, because I feel like it's just a unnecessary hype is going on. People clearing interview for like all big tech companies, but at the same time they are hesitating to learn a new technology. There is a fear like there are a lot of things to learn, but it's not like that. If you just strategically go into that, you should be able to crack an interview in maximum 2 to 3 months. Okay, I've seen many scenarios. Just February month past, there are 6 people were there. All people cleared interview before completing the course. Okay, it's just not exaggeration. These people are there. I'll be also adding you to the alumni group later, and the Google reviews are these people are also shared their reviews. So the only point is basically if you just strategically go through that, okay, not like one course in Udemy like Apache Spark with the data frames, another course in Pluralsight streaming, another course in Edureka for AWS cloud. So not like that, rather in a single course, like end-to-end everything is connected with each other. So if you go through that way, so it should be easy for you to crack interview. Anyways, so first 6 to 7 sessions will be completely on the Spark's core part. That is the RDD part. Okay, we'll be discussing about the Spark's core part, that is RDD approach. Okay, I'll be quickly explaining you, like this is the, so as you know, like it's all data engineering. Okay, the big data and all these are all falling under the same umbrella, that is data engineering. We'll be playing around with data. Okay, heterogeneous type of data. Data is coming from different systems. Reliance Jio, they have different business verticals. Reliance Entertainment, they have used the backend database as MySQL. Reliance Finance, they have used Oracle as the backend database. Reliance Jio, they have used SQL Server as the backend database. They have different technologies. They have used the backend databases. And when the business team, they wanted to take overall decisions, they wanted to see the overall revenue part of the all these business verticals. They won't be able to see each and every database separately. It's tedious for them because the business people, they are not technical, rather they're business people. They understand the business better way. So they will require a dashboard, like a single website. I'm not sure if you have gone through. I'll just quickly show you. So kind of you can see these are called dashboards. Like suppose the business team is looking for this kind of dashboard. Like suppose this part is showing the cost and revenue part of Reliance Jio. This is for Reliance Petrochemical. This is for Reliance Entertainment. This is for Reliance Finance, like that. So they want to see in a single website or single page, they want to see everything. Okay, so this is not directly possible if you're not doing any business intelligence activities or dashboarding activities. They have to do it if they want to take a close attention or understand their business closely or monitor their business at a daily level. So they have to invest money and create this kind of systems or processes. Okay, so take the example, suppose you are working for a finance company and you are providing credits to customers. Okay, so you know, on an average every day you are making a $1 million revenue. So all of a sudden your revenue is picking up this. Okay, that means there might be some wrong in the backend. Might be people have understood some caveat in your system, so they are exploiting you. Or there might be some huge campaigns you are running. Okay, and because of that only the revenue part has just spiked up. So all these things to understand, you have to create an entire proper system. Otherwise, your business will not succeed. For every other business, not just big companies, startup also. Startups again, they have to do it more detailed because they have limited fund. So they have to basically observe or monitor their business very closely. Otherwise, they may lose their business also. You might have heard in India, many fintech companies are going on. They are basically providing credits on wallet, just like we are using credit cards where we have a certain credit, you can use it and end of the month you can pay it back. Similarly, different wallets, if you have heard, like Amazon is giving Amazon card and they're providing credits. Flipkart is providing, and many different companies are providing credits on wallet. Ola is also providing. So they have to be very careful. Like if they don't monitor their business at a daily level, at an hourly level, if there is a glitch in the system, so people will start exploiting their money, and they will go bankrupted. So in those cases, like monitoring becomes very important. Okay, it's not for fun sake just seeing some visuals. Rather, these are actual business intelligence, actual dashboards or actual matrices on top of his businesses take decisions. And we the data engineers prepare the data. It's not like some dashboard has been created using nice HTML and JavaScript. Rather, these are all data driven. Okay, so you have just pulled data from all these different systems and you have created data warehouse. On top of the data warehouse, this dashboarding Tableau or ClickView, these people have created different dashboards or these visuals. Okay, so it's a basically a lot of what do you call, a lot of importance. Okay, so anyways, as I mentioned, like first 6 to 7 sessions we'll be learning that is the core part of Spark, that is RDD. Okay, so in RDD, this is a collection approach. Okay, so data means most of the people, you just feel like it's a, in a database, data is available as a two-dimensional table and you are just querying that data. Okay, that's true. That understanding is true. Every time we refer industry data or enterprises data means the data are structured data stored in some databases. Okay, So sometimes data is also can be treated as a collection. Okay, each collection means this list, set, map. These are the different collections we have learned in any programming language or in databases. So a list of some transaction records, list of some employee records, list of some user activity records. Okay, so those way. So when we will be starting with the Spark score part, we'll be reading data as a collection, okay, a list of records, and then we'll be applying all these ETLs on top of that list. Okay, we'll not do any setup in a local computer for first 6 sessions. We'll be using a free platform that is called Databricks. Okay, Databricks provides a community edition version. It's a browser based. You can just register to their website and you can start using. They provide a one single node cluster. That cluster is having 15 GB of RAM and 1 core, which is sufficient to process 10 GB or 5 GB of data. So initial few sessions, we'll be using Databricks notebook and we'll be doing the RDD programming. Okay, so in a way you'll be learning Databricks, which is a Spark as a service, and at the same time you'll get a flavor like how this basic ETLs look like. Okay, RDD part is little trickier than data frame. Data frame code is very easy in comparison to RDD, and in the real-time projects also we use data frame always. We never ever use RDD, but at the same time you have to learn RDD first and then go to data frame, because in the interviews most of the tricky questions comes in RDD. Yeah, all these conceptual questions comes in RDD, so we have to first finish RDD and then we'll go through data frame, so that things will also be more clear. So we'll not be by hitting the stuffs, rather you'll be understanding it properly. That's the whole idea. First 6 session, that is 12 hours, we'll be spending learning RDDs. Okay, basic details as I'm mentioning, like reading transaction data, customers data, find out the monthly sum of transactions, count of transactions, count of active customers, count of new customers acquired. Those kind of matrices will be calculating what you do in normal ETL. Okay, and non-program, like people having like non-ETL background, you'll also get a fair idea like how ETL projects look like. Okay, so with that we'll take a pause and we'll learn Python. So okay, so Python is basically we'll be learning about the core Python part only. So Python is again a huge language. If you just dedicatedly sit and learn Python, it will take 2 months easily. There are a lot of things are there, but we don't have to go through all these details. We are here learning Apache Spark or a Big Data Distributed Framework. So we will learn only those part of the Python that is required to program Spark as well as for clearing interviews. Okay, so that basically that will be 4 sessions, like 8 hours. So we'll be learning the Python's core part, like how to declare variables, these iterations, these conditional expressions, collections. Collections means list, set, map, tuple, and all this. Exception handling, how to write the code so that any exceptional conditions is arising, how to handle it. Okay, and then OOPS concepts, like how to create class, object, okay, how to create custom data types, those things. Some advanced concepts like generators and comprehensions or faster executions, and pandas data frame. Pandas data frame is also another very important thing, though we don't use it at a daily basis, but some interviewers, they do ask what is the difference between pandas data frame and Spark's data frame. Okay, pandas is a separate library on Python, which gives us a similar interface, like reading our data as an in-memory 2-dimensional table and then applied the ETL on that. So pandas also will be learning. So yeah, roughly like the total 8 hours of session we'll be spending on Python part. So during that time only, so while before starting the Python itself, we'll be doing all these setups in our local computer. Okay, so we'll be setting up Python 3.8, and we'll be setting up this PyCharm ID where we'll be writing the code. Okay, so all these things we'll be doing during that time. We'll do the setup of PyCharm in your local computer, and we'll start writing the programs of Python, right click and execute. Okay, we'll not use Databricks notebook anymore. We'll be using PyCharm. Okay, because that's how in the real-time projects we use this IDE to write the program. It's not notebook based. Some people who are having basic knowledge, you feel like this notebook environments we always use. No, notebook environments, it's not always used. Ad hoc analysis can be used using notebook, but if you want to create a production or deployment ready application, you have to create the application with proper structure using any of these IDE, integrated development environment. Okay, so once we finish Python basics, we'll come back to data frame. okay, where you'll be learning like how to read data from all these different structured sources, okay, like, and data frame is basically is the bread and butter of we like Spark developers. Okay, we do write code on data frame at a daily basis. Okay, so data frame part is it's super important. So anybody want to say something, you can feel free to interrupt me.
Siddharth, I typed my question.
So you are asking for like how you prepare yourself as a lead role, right? Okay, it's a good question. So people having 6-7 years of experience plus, you might be wondering like, since I'm having now 10 plus years of experience, I can't apply for the normal data engineering role or senior data engineering role. I directly want to start applying for lead role. So as I'm mentioning, like not just 9 years, I have seen people with 28 years of experience are also there in previous batches, okay, from US, and like 12 plus 15 plus have completed more than 30-40 people. Okay, so the course has been designed in such a way that I am covering every aspect. Okay, so every aspect as in like as I mentioned, like right, starting from the scoping part, how do you scope a use case for a client. So sometimes like you get the already statement of work like SOW, and now you want to start working. Okay, so how to basically understand the problem statement and um, how to basically do all this, how to basically design the entire pipeline, what are the technologies to be used, and all these aspects. Those things I'm explaining in and out. So it's up to the participant, like how you want to take it forward. Okay, so you are saying like if you have 10 plus years of experience, so you have executed more projects than the other people. So you will be understanding it in a more better way. So as in like the same lecture has been given. So basis our experience level, we'll be able to extract the right content. Okay. So as I mentioned, like as a data engineering role, so a person will be more, he or she will be more interested towards the coding part, like how, what kind of programs we are writing, what kind of ETLs we are writing. For a lead level role, your attention will be more towards like how to understand the end-to-end flow. Okay, means how to set up the stuffs, like when you create a project, means what are the different activities we do set up a CI/CD pipeline, Jenkins pipeline, we set up a GitHub account, we do set up the unit testing framework, or for basically for integration testing, we write separate code so that every time we do some activity it should be tested properly. So you'll be basically thinking in that line. You're getting my point. Means the content is same. Basis your experience level, you will be able to extract the right information. I'm having 6 years of experience. Means that means I have executed 6-7 projects in the past. So I'm mostly into programming. So I'll be more curious about like how to see like how the big data projects are there, how to code it, how to set up the infrastructure. Okay, so then basically I'm a 8 years 9 years experience, so I'll be curious to know like how this person has just did the setup, okay, along with the programming part. How did this person just think in this line? Yeah, means I have to design the pipeline in this way, these are the technologies to be used, this is how the project duration has been divided into. It's a 6 months project. First 1 month I'll be spending on requirement gathering, understanding the in and out flow, then and also setting up the infrastructure. Then this project is having 3 modules. For the first 2 months I'll be attacking the first module. Then the next month onwards, like each month one module, so that I can finish end to end, and then I can basically start doing the integration or UAT, isn't it? So that's how basically our perspective of understanding the stuffs, isn't it? So that's how basically that's my part is basically. Okay, so if some people are having confusion, you are sitting, if you are 9 years of experience, you are still sitting with people with 3 years of experience, and 3 years experience people, you are feeling like you are still sitting with 9 years of experience. Is it right course for me, or I have to wait, I have to get more experience, then only I'll get into that? So to answer this question, it's basis your experience level, you can try for those roles. Okay, you are 3-4 years of experience, you can show 3 years of experience in your resume, start trying for big data roles. So all this stuffs required for trying 3 years role, you'll be getting everything. Okay, so in the project part, I'll be explaining like how you can show multiple projects in your resume. Okay, that part also I'll be covering. And you are having 6-7 years 8 years plus experience, you can basically extract the contents relevant for projecting yourself as a senior data engineer role or lead data engineer role. Okay, it's completely flexible. Basis your experience level, you'll be able to extract the right information from this program. Okay, because I'll be discussing all these aspects because I have like worked on end-to-end projects multiple times. I'm involved in scoping up more than 4 or 5 projects. So I'll be using the right terms, right statements. So basis your experience level, you can feel free to interrupt me and you can ask more questions and you can get more relevant information from my side. Okay, that is to Abhishek's questions. And CI/CD part, yeah, this Jenkins part I'm not covering, but I'll be just telling you high-level overview, like what is this Jenkins and all this. Okay, but that's a separate thing. But yeah, like I can give you some right content, 1 or 2 YouTube video, like where you can see the end-to-end setups part. Okay, again, you don't have to do the setup because you will be just guiding the DevOps person to do the setup, but you should know what these tools do, what is CI/CD, what are the tools available. Okay, if I'm using cloud, AWS cloud, should I go ahead with Jenkins or should I go ahead with Azure pipeline? Okay, so similarly, if I'm using AWS, should I still go ahead with Jenkins or should I go ahead with AWS data pipeline? Like that, those kind of relevant questions you'll be definitely asking and I'll be explaining happily because these are really architectural questions. Okay, so other people having lesser experience also, you'll also get a lot of information as a senior experienced senior resource also. Okay, I do discuss all these things. And another question is basically, can you please give us high level of Spark, Big Data, Scala, etc.? Why you use Spark? Yeah, definitely. That's the first thing, as I mentioned. No, so today's session, like half an hour, I'll be discussing about that. Okay, and then Sandeep's question is basically, do we need to know about Hadoop and Ivy? I'll discuss that also. Okay, so yeah, anyway, like I'll be discussing everything. So let me first complete this course content part so that you'll get a fair idea. Okay, these questions are relevant questions, but they are coming in different order. Like once I finish this course description part, half the question is solved here. So as we discussed, like first 6 sessions RDT, that is a core part of Spark. Then 4 sessions on Python. So people from non-programming background will get enough examples to do hands-on, so that you will be understanding the Python in and out, and you can basically start confidently writing the Spark code using Python. Okay, that is there. And then the next thing is basically the data frame. Like that's the thing what we use in the real-time project extensively. So here what we do, all these ETL projects are basically divided into 3 parts: data ingestion, data curation, and data provisioning. Data ingestion means the data is available in different sources. You should be able to pull all this data to a central location or a common location or the data lake. Okay, so for that, all these aspects we'll be discussing. We'll set up a dummy MySQL database on AWS, and we'll be writing Spark code to read data from MySQL. Similarly, we'll set up a MongoDB, which is a NoSQL database on AWS infrastructure, and we'll writing a Spark code to read data from MongoDB. We'll be setting up a SFTP server and we'll be reading data from SFTP. We'll set up a AWS Redshift database, which is a MPP database. MPP is nothing but massively parallel processing database or data warehouse, you can say. There are many different variants are there. If you have heard about Google BigQuery, so that's again an MPP database. AWS Redshift, MPP database. Azure SQL data warehouse, that's again an MPP database. Okay, there are different systems are there. So we'll be learning AWS Redshift. So that is, with that we'll be completing all this data ingestion part. You should be able to read data from RDBMS, NoSQL database, SFTP, cloud storages like Amazon S3 bucket, and MPP database like Redshift, and normal file formats like Parquet, Avro, JSON. All these things we'll be discussing. That's part of your data ingestion activities. Then the data curation. Data curation, basically you have to apply the relevant business logic and the data cleansing activity to prepare the data for the downstream applications. Okay, so the raw data you just faced from different systems, so that data cannot be used as it is. So you have to apply the business logic. You have to merge multiple data set together and form a single master data. And you have to create facts and dimension tables. And these are the warehouse concepts we'll be discussing. So basically, in short, you can think of like the backend data for the machine learning applications or BI reports. Okay, we'll be preparing data for that. Okay, so those data we will be using. So we'll be using the data curation logic to do that, to basically prepare those data. So here there are two techniques. You can use DSL logic, like a programming approach of solving the data curation problems, or you can use SQL queries also, Spark SQL. Okay, both the approaches. Okay, same problems will be solved using both DSL approach as well as Spark SQL approach. DSL is basically programming approach. You will be writing Python code, and Spark SQL approach you will be writing pretty much same ANSI standard SQL query what you have learned earlier. Okay, so with that, all these tricky questions like window analytics function, rank, dense rank, row number, lead lag, all these functions, cumulative aggregates, all these things we'll be discussing here in the curation part. And post that, we'll be learning about the data provisioning. Okay, so you did the data curation, you prepared the master data sets. So who are the end users of the data? Is it like another big data job will be reading data from this, or whole bunch of data analysts or the business intelligence people, they will be reading the data, so they require a SQL based interface? In that case, I'll be writing the data as to a NPP database like Google BigQuery or Snowflake or this kind of systems. And then the last thing is basically so that is basically the data provisioning. And so all these descriptions I mentioned around that only. Okay, how to do the data curation, and post that we'll be learning like how to deploy the application on a AWS cloud. Okay, so that part also we'll be discussing in details. Let me quickly show you what are the services we'll be using. One second. Yeah, so you can see this is the AWS portal, like everybody will be registering to AWS account. So that gives a free account like for the learners, 1 year free subscription. So you can use this free subscription for 1 year to basically try all this, but they will ask you for credit card. So you can just add it. They will not, somebody is asking, yeah, the application means the Spark ETL code, correct. So application means Spark code only. So you'll be creating a Spark code and then you'll deploy it. I'll come to that. Okay, so just let me quickly walk you through what are the services we'll be using from AWS. So there is a service called AWS EMR. It's basically a cluster. Okay, so we are saying it's a distributed computation. Unlike your RDBMS softwares or NoSQL or this Pentaho, these are all standalone systems. Here we will be using distributed computation. That means multiple computers collectively will process your data pipeline or ETL code. Okay, for that we require a distributed computation system, right? So for that, AWS provides a service called EMR, Elastic MapReduce. So you can create a cluster. Okay, so with few clicks you can create a cluster. I'll tell you like manually how to create it, programmatically how to create it. So all these things we'll be discussing. Here you can specify how many node cluster you want. Okay, so there are different type of computers. Okay, here you can see computers means suppose you are using a computer having 4 GB RAM and 2 core. There are computers having 8 core, 16 GB of RAM. There are computers like 16 core, 61 GB of RAM. There are different type of computers. So we'll discuss details like how to basically rightly decide the number of computers, type of computers, and all this. So here you can see like you can create a cluster with few clicks only, just like you are using opening a Facebook account or Yahoo account. You can simply just with few clicks you can create a cluster and run the job. Okay, so it will be taking roughly 3 sessions for me to explain you like how to deploy your application end to end into AWS infrastructure. Okay, you will move this application to Amazon S3 bucket. Amazon S3 is basically nothing but a AWS S3 is nothing but a scalable storage in cloud, just a file system. Your computer is having a file system. So this is also having its file system. This cloud is also having file system. Here in AWS, it is called S3. There in Azure, it is called blob storage. There in Google Cloud, it is called Google File System, GFS. Okay, so different files. So we will move our application to S3 and then we'll be writing code. Okay, so then we'll be creating a cluster Again, you saw we are manually creating clusters. So in production, nobody will manually create a cluster. You can program it also. Okay, AWS provides scripting. So you can use AWS SDK to write a script and it will create a cluster for you. Okay, it will create a cluster for you. And again, I can quickly show you, just to give you a quick glance so that you'll get the entire depth of this course, not to just scare you, rather just to, I just want to give the most all these contents in all these 4 sessions, so that you'll get a, and then we'll start dissecting it part by part, and then we'll be discussing. So 1 second, yeah. So basically it provides scripting. Okay, so it's, you can see, just a kind of declarative. Okay, it's not program like you're not writing any algorithm. So this script is already available in AWS website itself. You can copy it and you can provide your credentials. I want M5X slash, like each computer is having 8 core and 16 GB of RAM. I want 2 nodes. Okay, so this is my subnet ID, like which are the IP addresses. Again, you don't have to do it with a single click. It will create for you. Security group, everything you are specifying. Here in the steps section, you are adding your Spark job details. Okay, Spark submit -- class this one, -- master this, -- deploy mode this. You are mentioning all your job information. Okay, so this is called AWS Lambda. This script you are writing it using Lambda. Okay, so this is the cluster part what we discussed now, and there is a service called AWS Lambda that we use for what you call serverless scripting. The script what you saw, no? So that script is already available in the AWS site. You just have to copy paste it, make small changes like what are the type of computers you require, what are the type of how many number of instances you require, all this information. So you can write that piece of code here. You click test button, it will immediately create a cluster for you. Okay, it will create a cluster for you. The same thing what we are doing manually. So you don't have to do manually. It will create a cluster for you and run the job for you. Entire thing is automated. Okay, so this thing we'll be discussing. We'll be creating a EMR cluster and we'll be dynamically submitting Spark jobs to that. Sometimes what happens, you also have to work on projects little tricky, like little lengthy or complex architecture, where you have to orchestrate multiple Spark jobs together. Okay, your pipeline is not just a single Spark job, rather it's a combination of multiple Spark jobs. So in that case, you have to orchestrate the jobs together. Okay, it's a common activity. Till people, you can easily relate it. You can just create a workflow by adding multiple data processing or data transformation activities, and you can orchestrate, or you can create a flow basically. So there are different tools available in the market. If you have heard about Apache Oozie, Oozie is the tool mostly people use to orchestrate like Hadoop, Hive, Spark jobs and all. Apache Airflow is again another flexible and more robust orchestration tool. So similar to that, AWS also provides a service called AWS Step Function. Okay, you can basically orchestrate multiple jobs together. Okay, you can basically orchestrate multiple jobs together and you can create a bigger flow. Okay, so this is one Spark job will be running. Once this is completed, this is another Spark job will be running. Once this is completed, either this or this will be executed, and then it will complete it and it will end it. So you can create a flow basically. Okay, you can create a flow or orchestrate multiple jobs together, and this is called a state machine. Okay, and you can create a state machine altogether. Okay, that is all about your what do you call? That is all about your like orchestration part. So these are all latest stuffs. Okay, there are really very latest stuffs. Okay, I can guarantee you these kind of things, like you can learn basics, but production ready code you will not find anywhere, because courses are mostly theoretical to give you a perspective. But here we'll be discussing, like we'll create a proper Spark job. We'll be running it in an EMR cluster. First we'll do it manually, then we'll create a Lambda script to do it dynamically. Then we'll intentionally create a complex job, like 2 Spark jobs, 3 Spark jobs, they'll be running together through this particular state machine. Okay, all these things we'll be doing here. Okay, post that, all these things we'll be doing here. And that is basically all about your AWS services. So major services are EMR, Step Function, and Lambda. Along with that, some small tools like how to schedule it. There is a CloudWatch event. You can basically create a cron tab using CloudWatch, and another service called CloudFormation. So you saw like creating cluster also, you can script it. You can write a script to create a cluster, that is CloudFormation. So these are the stuffs from AWS we'll be learning. So people who are trying for the lead level of role, so these are kind of the things you have to most focus on, because programming is one part, like you did the ETL programming, reading data and applying the data curation, that is limited to the data engineering role or senior data engineering role. So then lead part is basically how to orchestrate the entire things together and create a bigger flow, isn't it? That's one of the important aspects. So you should concentrate more on that part. Okay, so you should concentrate more on that part, basically how to basically think the, or basically understand the problem from the beginning to the end. Okay, right from the requirement understanding till the deployment part. Okay, all these things you should focus. And yeah, step function is just adding dependencies. Yeah, one after another, few jobs will be running in parallel. Okay, few jobs will be running in parallel. Post that, another few jobs will be running in parallel. So those kind of dependency management, we can do it using step function. That's the question from Sandeep. Okay, so these are about.
Siddharth,
Yeah, please.
you will be discussing all these in detail later.
Later means, yeah, we'll be doing hands-on. You yourself will be writing the step functions to run the job. Okay, trust me, like
or dependencies of the jobs and parallel processing, these all things.
Exactly. That's, you can see like in my previous batches, I have already given that multiple times.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so that we'll be seeing multiple times. So you, and not a single program I write by my own. From tomorrow onwards, you will see like I'll ask someone, I'll take control of his system and we'll write the programs, execute everything on that person's system. Next day, I'll take another person's system. So I never, it's the only today I'm sharing my screen. From tomorrow onwards is the participants screen I'll be using to basically write the programs and drive the stuffs. Okay, this is a bigger pipeline you can see in my screen where I have used multiple step functions and all this. Okay, so for a quick demo, I can quickly show you. Oh. No, feel free to interrupt me. Okay, so I don't want like people should be having a lot of confusion. So whatever questions come to your mind, just feel free to ask. Okay, there is nothing, nobody is judging you. Even if somebody is judging, it's neither of your business. Our job should be learning big data as soon as possible, and basically you're getting my point, right? Means everybody should focus your own stuff. What's your strength? What's your weakness? So we're asking about this, right? Means dependency management. We are doing a couple of parallel jobs will be running. One is a separate branch, this separate branch. All this completed, then only just start with this. Okay, all these things we'll discuss in and out. Okay, don't worry. People from who have not yet started into big data, don't get scared. Once you start writing the program, you'll see this is pretty easy. Again, the programming language you saw, it's not a programming language per se. It's basically some declarative JSON kind of structure only you're writing. It's completely JSON, key value pairs, type, task, resources. This is the EMR cluster status. One Lambda script has been written, and it's the address of that particular script. Okay, these are pretty straightforward. Okay, you will go step by step and you'll be doing everything by your own. Okay, I will not just show in my computer and share the recording, and as I mentioned, like every day end of the session you will get the recorded version of the same session also, because I know like sometimes I'll be writing it, but and I generally don't encourage people to write it parallelly with me. Rather, because in 2 hours I'll be discussing many contents. So and you have to follow the recording and you have to try that program by your own. And if you're still stuck somewhere, like you can ask the same question in the next session. Okay, that's the approach I follow. Okay, because like if you'll just if everybody will do parallelly, so the whatever we will be recording, that recorded session will not be useful in the later session, because some other person is asking different questions, so you'll be messed up there. Okay, so you'll get everything recorded thing, so you will suppose I used Sandeep's system to try this orchestration. So I'll share the recording with you. So the rest of the people, you can follow the same thing and replicate the same solution in your environment. And if you're stuck somewhere, then you can ask question. But pretty much most of the time, I just go for a very detailed description. So you'll never get into a situation like where you have to basically you'll stuck somewhere and you will not be able to come out of it. It never happens. Okay. I take every person's problem seriously. I make sure like everybody able to write the program. Then only I proceed further. Okay. Provided you have to just cope up with me. Okay. So as you know, only 3 sessions, you'll be getting a gap of like almost 2 days and 3 days in between. That's a huge gap. So you'll get enough bandwidth to practice all these things. Okay. You should do at least that part, and the rest of the things I'll take care of it. Okay. Anyway, so I was just discussing about this orchestration part and all this. And with that, we'll be also discussing about the streaming part here. So we'll set up a Kafka cluster, like one node Kafka cluster on AWS. Okay. Just like your computer is having certain memory and processing capacity. So AWS has a service called EC2. Okay. Elastic Cloud Compute. These are nothing but machines only, as I shown you there, MPy.large and all this. One computer has having 2 core 4 GB, and another computer has been 4 core 8 GB. Similarly, we'll take one machine from AWS, we'll installing Kafka there. Okay, then we'll be reading data from Kafka using structured streaming. Okay, if you have heard about Spark streaming, so Spark streaming's advanced version is nothing but structured streaming. Okay, so we'll taking 2 sessions, that is 4 hours to learn structured streaming, and then again 2 hours on AWS Glue, that is a Spark as a service, and another 2 hours for Delta Lake. And post that, we'll be doing hands-on on this particular project. Okay, this is an end-to-end project. People from ETL background, you can just relate it easily. People from non-ETL background, you can just pay attention here. So you can see these are this is basically the automation start. Here I'm starting. So a CloudWatch cron tab. Cron tab is nothing but a scheduler. You are saying every day 12:30 midnight this job should run. So that configuration is here. That will basically trigger a step function. You saw that step function. I show you that blue red color icon, that flowchart kind of diagram. So the CloudWatch will trigger this step function. This step function internally will call multiple Lambda functions to create a EMR cluster. You can see the arrow is going here. You can create a EMR cluster, and that EMR cluster will read all these data sets. You can see we will be using 4 different data sources. Transactional data will be coming from MySQL DB. Loyalty points or campaigns data. Loyalty points data will be coming from SFTP server as CSV files. Then campaign data will be coming from Amazon S3 bucket. So then customers data will be coming from MongoDB. These are the 4 different sources. We'll be reading all them one by one, and we'll be writing into Amazon S3 bucket. That is our landing zone or the staging area or data lake, whatever you can say. Okay. So once you trigger this job will be this job will be pulling all this data and writing into Amazon S3 bucket. Then the another step there in the step function will trigger this will again trigger Spark job that will be reading data. That's why there you can see it bidirectional. One is it is staging source data. Okay, so all the source data has been staged there in S3 bucket. Then read staging data and apply the data curation here in the Spark job running on EMR cluster. This is nothing but EMR cluster. Okay, it will do all this data curation and it will write the data to AWS Redshift. Okay, this is a very simple data pipeline project, and you can just imagine or you can relate it. Every other data engineering or data pipeline projects look like this only. Okay, data ingestion, data curation, and data provisioning. And of course, like as you are like having, as you have to show 5-6 years of experience, you have to show a couple of other things like how do you checkpoint the stubs, how do you monitor the jobs. For that, we'll be creating a couple of tables to checkpoint. Every time you start reading the data, make an entry to the checkpointing table. Yeah, this table loading started. Okay, once it is completed, just change the status as succeeded. Like that, you have to keep on making entry so that, so the point is basically once the job is in production, the support guy who is supporting this project, he should be able to understand like how to basically monitor the jobs, isn't it? So for that, we have to enable the checkpointing and all this. So checkpointing can be done through this way, and there are multiple other ways are also there. Okay, there are other ways are also there. So checkpointing and summary table, like every time you complete one data ingestion or basically data provisioning, you should show like how many records has been inserted. So this is for summarization. Okay, end of this pipeline, you can send out email saying, yeah, this is a today's report and all. Okay, so that is there. And okay, that is there. So that is basically the typical project. Will be taking 6 to 7 sessions. Actually, all these parts we have already executed in the data frame session itself. Okay, data frame session will try all these examples, and this project is about orchestrating them together and create a bigger pipeline. Okay, so this is about a very high level overview of the project. Okay, this is a very high level overview of the project. And I'll just take a pause. Like anybody having any queries, feel free to ask me or add any question. Same question, same thing. I'll just repeat it again and again. Nobody has to hesitate. You don't have to think, because you will be paying separately. You are not collectively collecting money and paying me. Everybody is paying separately. So don't hesitate to ask questions. Okay, you feel like it's a silly question, it's neither of your business what other people think. Okay, so end of the day, we should be able to understand the things, because you will be going for an interview and you have to face the questions, isn't it? So I'll just take a pause. Like anybody having any queries, feel free to ask me. Mano says, Ritesh.
No, Siddharth, currently I don't have any that much of query. If anything, I will let you know.
Sure. Brahmini, Brian, anybody having any queries?
I had one small question. Like, what is the difference between EC2 and EMR?
EC2 is basically an instance, a computer. Just like suppose you require to install a SFTP server or a MySQL database on your computer. So you need a physical machine to install something. Okay.
Means whatever will be working over there, it should be installed in EC2.
Yeah, if you
like if I'm working with Talend with SQL, Talend and both SQL should be installed in EC2.
Exactly, right, understand. And here in this big data scenario, and if you just relate it, so we saw like you will be trying different data ingestion techniques. You'll be reading data from MySQL, MongoDB, SFTP server. So you need to install those services, right? So you can install it in your local computer. So which will be tedious, because some people are using Windows, some people are using Mac, some people are using Ubuntu. So for me, like it will be a lot of time consuming activities, isn't it? I have to explain each and every person how to do the installation. Again, for Windows, somebody is using Windows 7, somebody is using Windows 10. It's a lot of work for me, isn't it? So for that, I just simplified it. So everybody, you are using a free AWS account. So in AWS account, we'll take a Ubuntu system, because as a big data developer, mostly you'll be given a Mac or Ubuntu system. So there will in AWS, we'll take a free EC2 instance of Ubuntu machine, and we'll do all these installations there. I have created the steps. I'll just share the steps with you. You can execute it. You can set up a MySQL database, MongoDB, Kafka, everything you can install there. Okay, that is about the EC2 part. Okay, EC2 will give you a computer. Okay, so it's not like now I have 10 type of computers. One person is using Windows 7, another Windows 10, another using Mac Air, another person using MacBook Pro. Now, to avoid that, we can use a EC2 instance, and all the setups will do there. Everybody will do the setup, so that in a way you'll be learning also how to use AWS. Okay, that's the whole objective. Okay, because trust me, like nowadays, big data with cloud is a mixed profile. Okay, companies are not they are reluctant to pay separate. Like they have to hire a big data persons to do the big data activities, and another person, AWS person, to pay them separately. So AWS, everything is automated. With few clicks only, you can set up the entire infrastructure. So the requirement from the industry is that the big data developer should know in and out of AWS or Azure, whichever cloud he is comfortable. Okay, so that's that. And coming to EMR cluster is basically a cluster, a network of multiple computers. You are creating a 10 node machines or 100 node machines. So earlier, like people were doing the setups in that premise. Okay, you are working for finance, say Visa company or MasterCard company. So they have a lot of money. They just procured thousands of machines, and they have about 20 people DevOps team. And these DevOps engineers, they do the setups for the entire company. So it's a lot of cost as well as a lot of effort, isn't it? A lot of cost and a lot of effort. So to avoid that, nowadays companies are using cloud. Okay, cloud are giving very competitive price, very reliable price. So with few clicks, you can create a EMR cluster. Okay, just imagine like setting up a 10 node cluster on premise. It will take easily one DevOps person, and 10 machines price will be roughly, suppose each machine is having say 1 lakh, so you're procuring 10 machines, 10 lakhs rupees you're spending. And again, after 5 years, you have to sell out those computers, again purchase few new machines, because every 10 hours you have to change the machines. Okay, same just like your laptop. So it's huge costly. Rather, what I'll be doing, and again, like my jobs are running, not running 24/7. My jobs are running only in the night time, or like in 24 hours my clusters are being utilized for only say 10 hours or 15 hours. For the rest of 10-15 hours my clusters are remain idle, isn't it? So that's why like I'm unnecessarily maintaining that cluster for 24 hours. Okay, rather I can use AWS, Azure, or any cloud vendor. So I can basically, few clicks, I can create a cluster. I want to use it for 10 hours, I'll use it and then I'll stop it. Okay, so that's the whole idea. Like EMR is that. Okay, it completely automated big data cluster for you.
Siddharth.
Yeah.
So in future, when we will be discussing about Hive and we'll be working on it, so we can set it up on AWS environment.
Yeah, one good question. So some people are having a lot of confusion, like how. So in my course curriculum, I didn't mention anywhere Hive, Pig, and all. So these are not these are kind of legacy frameworks, and for learning that you don't have to spend extra time. Okay, for example, coming to the Hive. Okay, Hive is a data warehousing infrastructure on top of Apache Hadoop. Okay, Hadoop is a 20 years old technology now. You can imagine 20 years back Hadoop just came in, and 20 years back, like your parents or like your very elder cousins who were into software, just what is the computer they were using at that time? You might be seeing some desktops are lying in at your home, you in the like what you call storage and all. You will see like that computer is your Pentium 4 machine only, having each computer is having say 100 MB of RAM or 256 MB of RAM and 5 GB of hard disk. So you can imagine Hadoop has developed or architected 20 years back by considering this Pentium 4 machines. So, and Spark came in the year of 2011, and Spark is a continuously evolving framework. So you saw last month only Spark 3 got released, right? It's a very active community. So if you compare the architecture wise, Hadoop is a legacy framework, and computation speed wise, Spark is 100 times faster than Hadoop. But still, there are some companies who have invested a lot. Just think like Visa, MasterCard, or any healthcare company who have spent millions of dollars to set up a 1,000 node cluster. They can't just immediately transit from Hadoop to Spark. It will take years because they have created applications. It's not just the cluster. They have tens of applications, hundreds of applications running on that infrastructure. So that's why saying Hadoop, Hive related projects, Peak related projects, these are still running. Okay. So does that mean I have to put extra effort to learn that? So just get to know, because I have worked in Hive almost for 2.5 years. Okay, Hive, Peak, MapReduce. I have worked almost for 3 years. When I was there in Deloitte and Fractal, I have used it extensively. So when you are learning Spark SQL, as you discussed there in the data frame section, the data curation part, we can do it using Python code or Spark SQL code. Okay, there we will be learning Spark SQL end to end. Okay, Spark SQL, if you know, Spark SQL is a completely copied version of the Hive. Whatever queries you are writing in Hive, so Spark SQL has copied the same thing. Because as you know, like when a new framework is coming, it's not like reinventing the wheels. Whatever the existing stuffs are there, which is working fine, which are robust enough, just use that and add your additional stuffs. So same if you just compare, no? So basically Hive is, so Spark SQL is nothing but they have taken the entire SQL query engine from Hive to Spark, and it is called as Spark SQL. So same query, so if a person is asking, can you tell me what is the third highest salary, how to calculate the third and fourth highest salary of the employee data set, or can you tell me what is the month and month percentage difference of transaction in this sales data. So same query, whatever we'll be writing in Hive, the same query will be running in Spark SQL also without a single change. Okay, so the queries are same. Okay, somebody, it doesn't matter, a person is asking to write the query using Hive or Spark SQL, you have to blindly write the same query. Okay, just trust me, it's the same query. I have used both. And what's the differentiating factor? So Hive is basically a permanent storage and Spark SQL is in memory. So for Hive, if you want to show Hive in your resume, you have to just know two more things, like what are the type of tables, and that is, there are two types of table, managed table and external table. And while storing the data, you have to consider the partitioning and bucketing concept. So only these two concepts you have to learn extra, which is only 5 minutes discussion. I'll anyway tell in every batch. So that's why I don't mention that. Okay. So the point is basically I don't want people to show Hive and all this stuffs in the resume because Spark developers are paid more than Hadoop. Trust me, like people who are showing Hive, some companies don't consider Hive developers as big data developers because these are only their life is only about querying. Okay, they don't know how to do the data ingestion, and because Hive doesn't support how to ingest data from multiple store systems, you have to make the data as different tables in Hive, then you can do the querying part. Okay, so that's why I don't encourage people to write the Hadoop related stacks in your resume. But if you're really interested to go for a good salary, good position, then you should consider Spark. And if you have extra time, you can think of writing Flink and multiple clouds in your system. That will add a lot of weightage in comparison to legacy frameworks. Okay, so that's there. And coming to Pig and all, Pig is just a scripting that's called Pig Latin, and PySpark, the code you are writing, the coding style syntax are pretty much similar. Okay, and nowadays, as I mentioned, since we are going ahead with Spark development role, some companies will be asking for Hive and all. So Hive you can confidently show or you can explain, that's not a problem. And okay, these are the things. Okay, MapReduce program, forget about it, because if you learn MapReduce program, you have to again learn Java. Learning multiple languages from the beginning is very risky. You will be not able to complete anything. Okay, once you have experience, you have executed few projects using Spark with Python, few projects Spark with Scala, few projects Spark with Java, then you can say, yeah, I'm comfortable in all these languages. But when I'm starting something, when I want to migrate from my current skill set to big data, I should focus only one language. Okay, so that it's easy for you to remember the stuff. Because if you're a senior person, you must have identified all these programming languages. They are revolving around similar concepts: collections, oops concepts, these iterations, if else statements, exception handling. These are the common concept in all Java, Scala, Python, everywhere. But yeah, but like in interviews, they will not simply just ask you high level concept nowadays. Because of pandemic, like every other company, they will take like remote interview. They will ask you to turn on the video, or they will ask you to share the screen, write the program. Because I have been instructed to take the interview in my company in the same way. I have to ask the candidate to share the screen. So you are comfortable using Python, which ID you are using. The person is saying I'm using PyCharm. I'll say like open the PyCharm and write this code. Another person is saying I am good at Spark with Scala, which ID you are using. He's saying I'm using IntelliJ. So I'll ask him to open IntelliJ and write this program for me. Okay, so you have to write the program. That's why you have to be thorough about the syntax. Okay, so that's why just concentrate on single language, crack the interview. Once you get into a company, then you can expand your knowledge by jumping into multiple languages. But in order to crack an interview, let's be very particular. Okay, maybe that person will ask you to write a program to count the number of prime numbers between 1 to 1000. Okay, so if you have tried multiple programming languages, you'll be getting confused for sure. So that's why, like, let's stick to a single language, crack an interview, get into a job. Then you can, then as part of your job role only, they will expect you sometimes to work in a project where they require Spark with Scala. In another project, they will ask you to write the project Spark with Python. So you have to just learn and start using it. Okay, learning programming language, don't take it as a barrier. Don't take it as a restriction, because with experience you have to work on multiple languages. And trust me, it's not used right now. If I just count, I have almost used 5 to 6 languages. I have, in my beginning career, I have written JavaScript code also, and sometimes I was writing some analytics projects where I was using R programming also. So but that doesn't mean like I can go for any interview, I can say like ask me any question from these 5 languages. He can reject me in 10 minutes. He'll ask me one syntax in R programming, another syntax in Java, another syntax in Scala. I'll get confused and he'll reject me. I'll show only 1 or 2 languages. Currently, if you see my resume, I'm showing only Java, Python, and Scala, these 3 languages. These are JavaScript and all these are completely removed. Okay, so let's consider in one language, like say Python and SQL expert. We have to be, all people should be having very, means kind of expert in SQL. SQL is the bread and butter. Once you read the data, how to do a quick analysis through SQL only. Spark supports SQL. So you can write a quick SQL query and you will be getting a result. And trust me, like many interviews, in every other interview, SQL questions are must. There is no exception with that. All window analytics functions. We'll spend a lot of time discussing that. Okay. That's all about your stuffs. And any queries? Any further queries? Viharika, Vinay.
Hello.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, so actually I just asked a question like how much of SQL do I need to know?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like SQL expert. Don't think about PL SQL, but SQL is expert. Means how to write basic aggregations. Because like as a data guy, what's the first tool you should be having? Like somebody has given you a data, means either mostly it's available as a table. How to see the table?
Yeah.
You should be able to query it, right? So
Okay.
so query is the must, like basic aggregations, and then you are applying window analytics function. I will be discussing everything here in this program itself. But if you have time, you can parallelly start exploring
Okay.
SQL also.
I have worked with little bit of pandas before, so is it similar?
Pandas, yeah, means whatever things you are doing in pandas, same thing you have to do in SQL. In pandas, you are reading a data as a data frame, and you are adding a column, removing a column, modifying a column, applying some group by aggregations. Okay, group by one column, then count by values. You are using those syntax, right, to do some basic aggregations. Exact same thing
Yeah.
you have to do it in SQL also.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so
Okay.
data engineering, like concept is same, only syntax are different.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Sandeep Kumar. Sandeep, any queries?
No, Siddharth.
Okay, Ritesh, Manosis, Kishore. And yeah, please.
Siddharth, this is Hari.
Yeah, Hari, please.
Siddharth, regarding the SQL, I mean, what level of expert, like say, I have a basic knowledge on SQL, like, very basic.
Means
Select,
select query, yeah. SQL means select
select
queries.
queries,
SQL
and
means
let's
select
say,
queries here, I mean. Like,
yeah, outer join, full left outer joins.
exactly, these are the things required only. How to apply
Yeah.
aggregation, joins, and this window analytics functions. I'm pretty sure like many people are already aware of many things about SQL, and I'll be
Okay.
discussing all these interview questions and real-time stuffs, like when we use this kind of queries, and in the interviews, if this question is asked, how to answer them. I'll discuss
Okay.
everything.
And let's not, my queries, not, see, I'm not worried about the interview, but I'm worried about the after part of interview. See how far it will be useful, and how can we cope up with
Good
the
question.
real.
So this is actually real question. We shouldn't only target the interviews, because cracking interviews sometimes it's easy. If you just go for 10 interviews, for sure you'll be cracking one. It's the standard probability. So that's what, like I'm saying, like we will be doing hands-on in almost what you call almost 100 examples. Okay, so if you just go through my GitHub, so all these programs, whatever we have written, so these are the repositories I have created. If you just take any repositories, data frame examples, Python examples, RDD examples, okay, Delta Lake examples. Means if you just refer this GitHub, trust me, like
Okay.
it doesn't matter any project you go into, you want to start something from the scratch, you will get the template code here. Not just template, it's a proper working code. Okay. And you are, means I generally last 2 years I was only taking Spark with Scala course, but now it is a lot of openings in PySpark. So last 2 batches are PySpark only, but you will get all these codes on Spark with Scala also. And some of my previous projects also have added. You can go through that. Anyway, like during the respective session, I'll be saying you like you download this repository. Let's do the hands-on on this code. But yeah, the programs, like as I'm mentioning, like I generally help people to prepare for the interviews, and at the same time, when we are doing all these hands-on, these are not theoretical examples. Like go to any Udemy course, the data example data sets and Netflix data or some airlines data, not this kind of data. For me, like these are all proper project related data. I extracted 100 records, 200 records. I have anonymized it, and we will be doing analysis on those data. If you just do hands-on on these projects, trust me, like you will never, like there are many people openly say me like who have cleared interview and they have already completed more than 6 months, 1 year in their new big data role. very
Yeah.
few people have complaints like, yeah, means I'm not able to write it, I'm not able to understand it, but I do help them. Okay, I have an alumni group. There are roughly 200 people are there, because some people get drop off because there are a lot of information is flowing. So if you just like, many people ask their interview questions also here. Many people, just 2 days back, this guy, means yesterday, day before yesterday only, Kumar just got a offer from one company. Just before to that, means every week you will see 1 or 2% is cracking interview, and all are basically means very, you can see this guy is having some problem in some in some program, and then he's posting some question and somebody must be answering, or I'll be answering him. Okay, and some person, he has just saw some questions on Git and he has just posted all these questions here. It's a forum, like you can get many information, not just my information, many people. This guy has just shared all these questions he has seen in for AWS. It's a very interactive session. Many people are active here. Okay, so you will get all this kind of help. Okay, one guy is just posting some openings here in his company, and recently last week only 3 people got offer. Okay, so yeah, the bottom line here is basically what I want to say. There are a lot of all these questions, what all these examples, what we'll be trying in the projects, everything will be in used. And moreover, like when we'll be discussing about this project, now if you sincerely do hands-on, you don't have to really worry. Like the same project will be using as a template code or a structure of a project. You go into any project, you can start developing the project by your own, with very minimum help from your colleagues or from the seniors. You should be able to self drive yourself. Okay, so all these are relevant examples only. So what do you think, like why we just use this kind of examples here? Because these are the real time things. In real time, you have to do the data engineering. So a business is having multiple data sets, as we discussed about the Reliance example. Reliance is a company having multiple sub companies in between, inside. So all these different companies have different architects, different leaderships. So they have used different technology stacks, different way of solving problems. Now they want to create a data lake. You have to collect data from all these different systems and make it available to the data lake, isn't it? So somebody has used MySQL, somebody has used Oracle, somebody has used SQL Server. So you have to learn how to read the data and make it available to the data lake. Some company, some third-party system data is coming to your company, and the vendor is not aware of basically any big data and all. So they are saying like, we have flat files, we will share it over a shared drive. So can you just read the data and process it? So that's why we are also trying like how to read data from SFTP server. And these are the common, like MongoDB, S3, these are all common, and we'll be learning how to read the data from all these systems, implementing Spark connectors. These are what we are doing in the real-time projects also. Okay, this session is getting recorded. Sometimes I will show you my real-time projects also, how these real-time projects look like and all. I can quickly show you also. Let's avoid that. I'll show you in next session mostly, but I'll pause the sharing and I'll be pause the recording and I'll share with you. So project codes and whatever the codes will be shared with you, these are exactly similar. Okay, not like hello world kind of programs. Entire application, how do you make it configurable? Means create a configuration file, read the code, read the application related details, see Amazon S3 bucket credentials, you just put it in a YML file. SFTP details, you have just put into a YML file. So proper industry standard applications, okay, not just hard coding the stuffs. Means every application should be backed by a configuration file, prod, test, dev environments. How do you segregate them? Okay, how do you do the development in the local computer and test it in the production environment? All these aspects I discuss end to end. Okay, so the whole idea is basically to give you a sense of real-time working experience. Okay, not just like theory and you will not be able to crack interview. In fact, many people who come after completing programs from any online MOOCs or any big institutes, because they are mostly the contents are 3 years 5 years old contents. Okay, but here like I don't want to exaggerate, since you're asking, I'm saying point is basically a person who is teaching and who is not a real-time working guy. So once again I have to pause this. Okay, you have to do your own research, because we are all experienced folks. So just spend some time, just go through LinkedIn, search through data engineers, Spark, big data, and search few people and see their profile, what they have mentioned. Just connect with them, ask few relevant questions. Okay, so what are the tools you are using? How is the project structure? Okay, and all these things you can just check with them. In fact, like if your colleagues or if your friends are working, just check with them what are the contents, what are the tools you are using, this part how you are solving. Okay, what's your day-to-day activity, and just compare with what I'm saying. Okay, you shouldn't be biased with one person. We should take our all decisions because we are all experienced folks. We have seen the industries, we have executed multiple projects, we are in the network of multiple senior resources who have more than 10 plus years of experience. Just do a quick analysis. Okay, I'm not saying like whatever I'm saying like you have to follow it blindly. I also learn a lot of things from my participant because I am having 9 years of experience. I am saying like in the previous batch and another batch which is at another 10 minutes, one person is having 18 years of experience. So he do share his own experience. So I also learn a lot of things from them. Okay, so my point is basically just do your own research. Okay, do your own research. Just connect with many as many as big data developers possible, and just get a download from them, like what type of projects they're executing, what's the tools, what's the process. That will give you confidence. Okay, that you'll feel like you're already you are always aligned with the industry requirements. You are not learning something which is obsolete or which is theoretical, not practical like that. Okay, I just wish the same thing for everybody. Okay, do your own research. In fact, after 5 years, suppose I feel like I'm getting bored out of big data or data engineering, I should explore something new. Suppose I will feel like let's go ahead with blockchain. There are a lot of hype going on. I'll do the same thing. I'll not go for any. I'll not Google search best training institute in Bangalore or India. I'll go to LinkedIn. I'll search blockchain, Ethereum. It will show you jobs, people, groups, and all. I'll just try to send connection request to few people. I'll ask them, can you tell me like what are the type of projects you are executing? What are the tools? What are the languages you are using? Right? And show me one project. Can you help me like showing one project details? I'm fine. I can pay some extra money if you're reluctant to spend this much of time. You want to take some money. I'm fine. I can pay you 10K, 15K. Just spend 1-2 hours with me. Show me a real-time project so that I'll be convinced like this is the technology what I can learn or it's learnable for me, because I better know myself how much coding experience I have, how much query experience I have, how much of capacity I have to learn a new thing. This is the complexity. I'll just make a quick analysis on myself, and then I will start. And then I will basically make a call like whether I should learn it or not. Suppose I got convinced, yeah, I can learn this. This is not very different. I can put some effort and I can learn it. Then maybe suppose I'm connected with 5 people or 10 people on LinkedIn. I'll ask them, can you guide me one person who is working and giving classes? So definitely one or other person will say, yeah, you can just contact that guy. He's my colleague. He's good at this and he's providing training also. So in that way, that's the right approach. That's a strategic approach to get into that. Okay, every person, like we are not no more students, college students. We shouldn't get biased with this big names like 100 people, 1,000 people batches. Rather, it should be an intelligent decision. Just search for the right person, learn it fast. Like strategically, we have to go. Okay, otherwise we'll be spending a lot of time. And one person who is going strategically, he's cracking an interview in 3 months. Another person is just randomly going one course from Udemy, another course in Pluralsight, another course from another institute there in Marathali. So that will not help. Okay, so you have to be smart enough to make a decision. Okay, and trust me, like here, like almost more than 92 people have played interview. So that's why I feel I'm still not 100% confident, but I have some confidence level. Yeah, means whatever contents I'm delivering, for sure, like it's helping people. So that's why I'm continuing, and I could keep upgrading my course every 2 months, 3 months. People who have completed my courses 1.5 years back, if you compare the content, they will say I will join again because now the contents are double. Like those kind of things. I do always keep updating the stuffs, keep simplifying the stuffs. Okay, so that's max what I can say. Post that you have to basically do your own diligence research. Okay, so that's all for today. We'll start tomorrow again, same time, and we'll start with the basics of Spark, like what is the essence of Spark. So today we discussed about the contents what we are covering, but yeah, but also we should know like what are the type of projects we execute using big data. Okay, I gave you a quick glance today, but we'll discuss extensively what are the type of projects we execute using big data, and what is Spark, distributed computation, distributed storage. I'll take half an hour to 45 minutes on that. Then we'll start writing the program, our first Spark program. That is word count example. With that, we'll be continuing with that. Okay, so that's all for today. So any last question before wrapping it up?
Yes, Doctor. I have one question.
Yeah, please.
Is AWS certification necessary for this role?
Yeah, nowadays I'm saying, means big data with cloud is a must. If you are just not mentioning any cloud, so you'll be losing a lot of interviews. But still, you will get a lot of openings. But big data with AWS, and after a few months, we will see big data with Azure also. There will be a lot of openings, because if you are following all these tech trends, Azure just got 300% more revenue last year. That means they are doing aggressive marketing and all these things. Because in my current company also, we are paying almost 20 lakhs rupees bill every month for AWS, and now like Azure just convinced us like our bill will be reduced to less than half. So that's why we have also started migrating to Azure. So now big data with cloud is a must. Okay, is a must, because this is complementary to each other. Because you'll get to know, like after 1 or 2 sessions, you'll get to know, like here it is not like software engineering projects. You did the development and then the DevOps person will take care of the deployment. Here the data engineer will be very much involved in the deployment part also, because deployment is also part of the data engineering activities here. So that's why the person should be knowing both the things. But don't worry, I'll be discussing. AWS just looks like very tricky, but it will be super easy. Okay, trust me, it's super easy. Just like you are doing Facebook or LinkedIn, it will give you a feeling like that only. Okay, so don't worry on that. Any other queries? Yeah, Azure I will not be able to cover, but yeah, if somebody has some interest, we can take it offline, because I'm preparing some POCs by my own. If you feel like, you can join me. But in this course, as I committed, it's a Spark with Python or PySpark and AWS. Any other queries?
Thank you.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate you spend this much of time this weekend's morning. You trusted and you joined. It's really appreciating. So just cope up with me for another 3 sessions, so that you'll get a fair idea like what we'll be discussing, so that you can make a call like whether you should continue or it's not relevant or it's not of that quality you are expecting. Okay, so I'll try my best. And as you know, like it's not just for money I'm doing, it's a lot of passion. From my college time only I'm doing all this training. From my engineering only, I do give training on C++, data structure and all. Okay, I'm good at algorithm level also. So with a lot of passion I'm doing all these things, because I feel like means I could have like started from the day one, but I felt like let's first learn the real-time stuff properly and then get into the training. So that's why I started 2 years back this training part. But yeah, the objective is to make to help as many people as possible, so that like it's a like kind of hobby kind of thing I'm doing it, and at the same time helping other people and getting monetary benefit out of it. There's nothing to hide and nothing to hesitate. I'm always very open. Yeah, thanks again. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate you spend this 2 hours in the weekends morning. Okay, we'll again connect tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, Siddharth.
thanks everybody.
Bye.
Yeah, bye bye.
Thank you.